everybody. Welcome to the weekend edition of Proline. Three of us here today. Scott Spreitzer is on screen. Jim Feist. My name's Dave Koken. We've got some great games to talk about. Two outstanding Saturday matchups and one of the best games on the Sunday schedule as well. Want to remind everybody that next week we'll have our Super Bowl show where we get into a ton of props and give you some good ideas on what to do with those. And obviously we'll be talking about the game as well. But this weekend, basketball taking center stage, and we've got some great offers to tell you about as well. Started off with Scott Spreitzer, who nailed a big two-teamer last week. Scott, these three-team reports of yours have been they've been awesome lately, just spectacular. And I know you've got something big planned for Saturday.
Yeah, we did, Dave. We actually won 10 straight three-play reports in college basketball. Currently 10-1 going into the weekend. 33 plays, all sides, by the way, and we're 23-10, which is about 71% with those college basketball sides in those three-play reports. Now, last week we came on and we talked about our two-team parlay of the year. It was a pro basketball to college basketball parlay of the year, and it cashed. And we've got a big three-team report parlay of the year going on Saturday. It's my next three-play report, and we're going to put them together in a big three-team parlay of the year, three-team style, as we look to go to 11-1 with our last 12 three-play reports in college basketball. We look to up that record inside those reports to 26-10 with the 36 sides. All people have to do is call 1-866-896-1627. It's only $15, $5 per play. This package is going to sell for at least $50 online, $15 at Smash Mouth Sports. And by doing so, you're automatically going to get my NFL Super Bowl, the big matchup next week. It's been available now for a week at Smash Mouth Sports. If you've yet to get it, you want to get down, you get the Super Bowl side. You'll also get my Super Bowl props, all for $15. 1-866-896-1627 is the toll-free number to call.
Jim, you've got an offer that's, basically you're going to get a whole bunch of action, and if you spend $10, you'll get change back. I mean, this is pretty good.
Yeah, we're going to the other extreme here, Dave. We want to get a lot of people involved. You talk about inexpensive offer, $1 per day, 9 straight days, Super Bowl special, 9 days of hoops, and the Super Bowl play for $9. That's right, $1 a day for these great plays each and every day, 9 straight days of winners. You will put money in your pocket, and you'll top it off with the Super Bowl, which is going to be a pretty easy winner as well. Just make the call to 1-866-841-1655. That's $9 for 9 big winning days. Or you can go to ProlineTV.com. Don't forget, write that down. ProlineTV.com. We're there each and every day with offers and these videos. And for winners each and every day, free, sent right to your cell phone. Just text WINNER, WINNER, to 313131. That's winner to 313131. Don't forget, for $9, make the call 1-866-841-1655.
You know, the beauty on Saturdays is there's a lot of games to choose from. You sure don't have to force anything. And I've got 3 big games going on Saturday that I'm going to tie together in a guarantee. All 3 of these games will be under the hat releases, and those have become pretty well known over the years. They're strong opinions. I've got 3 of them. I'm going to put them all together and guarantee a 3-0 sweep. You got to win all 3 games, or you get my service free through February 6th, and that will include my play on the Super Bowl. You'd think with giving away 3 under the hat plays and a guarantee, going to be charging maybe $50 or $100. How about $10? That's it, $10 for all 3 games with the guarantee. This is a Proline TV exclusive. I'm not advertising this on the web. It's only for those of you that are watching this show right now. So take advantage of it, because for $10 with a 3-0 guarantee, it's basically a no-brainer. 1-866-841-1665 is the number to call. That's 1-866-841-1665, and get set to have a great Saturday with these winners. All right, let's get into some games. Started off with the Minnesota-Purdue matchup, and I watched the Northwestern-Minnesota game. I also watched myself lose money on that game. I took Northwestern. I thought, Minnesota's going to struggle without Al Nolan. They do have some physical advantages over Northwestern, but Wildcats have been a productive road team. They really needed the game as they're chasing down that first ever NCAA tournament berth. And Minnesota's been a poor home team. Well, it looked fine except for one thing. The officials decided to call everything on Northwestern and basically nothing on Minnesota. The foul shooting disparity in this game was as lopsided as I've ever seen in a college basketball game. Now, some of it was not, I'm not going to say it was unfair because Northwestern is the smaller team and they were having to foul some. But I think it was 43-11 or 45-11. That's absurd. Okay, there's no such thing as a game where the foul shooting should be that much of a disparity. So I think that was a somewhat phony win for Minnesota. Purdue, they got their lunch handed to them. That's a really good Ohio State team, and they may very well be the best team in the country. Purdue have to recover from that game quickly. The question is, do we get outpriced in this game? Scott, I suspect not. I think that Minnesota is a little bit of a fraud, particularly without Nolan. They're going to really miss him. He's their point guard. He broke his foot. He's going to be out for about 6 weeks. Another injury for him. They struggled when he was out previously with an injury. No reason to believe they won't again here. And I think Purdue probably comes in a little bit angry in this one. I like the Boilermakers in this game, Scott.
Yeah, I had Minnesota in that first matchup back on January 13th. In fact, it was our Big Ten shocker of the week at Smash Mouth Sports, and Minnesota was able to beat Purdue outright 70-67. I thought Purdue was in a nice spot against the Buckeyes, who you were right.Maybe they are the number one team in the nation, but I thought it was a good spot at plus 8.5 the other night against Ohio State. Well, Purdue didn't show up. I mean, they were out of it. 33-13, I think was the score before they could even, tie their shoelaces. But you mentioned that Minnesota is not as healthy as they were early on, and this is now two-time revenge for what it's worth for Purdue because they were whipped 69-42 in last season's conference tournament by the Golden Gophers. So there is that one thing that I worry about maybe one team just has the read on another team, but I don't think that's going to be the case here. Minnesota not completely healthy, as you just mentioned. Last time out, I had talked about when these two teams matched up. I wrote my analysis about Trevor Mbakwe and Blake Hoffarber, both averaging over 13 points per game. I thought they would be in a good situation against the Purdue Boilermakers in that particular contest. Also, you got to look at Purdue. They went into that game off a double-digit win, and they've been horrible this year, 15-30 off of double-digit wins over a Big Ten rival, and that was their case last time. That's not the case here. And then you had Tubby Smith, who was 9-1 against the spread after covering as a dog while losing straight up in the previous game. That's not in play here either. I think Minnesota's in a little bit of trouble in this one. Again, there's that little bit of worry that creeps into my mind that, some teams just have another team's number. We saw that with Notre Dame and Pittsburgh not too long ago. The Irish just seem, for whatever reason, to match up well with the Pitt Panthers, even if there is a talent disparity. That's the one caveat, but I think Purdue's still going to bounce back from that loss to Ohio State, put together a pretty good basketball game here, guys.
Jim,
Dave, you mentioned the officiating. One of our old friends that we used to hang around with once said that the officials are there to make absolutely sure the players have nothing to do with the outcome of the game. And sometimes that looks that way. You talk about this game, and when Purdue played Ohio State, let's talk about the emotional situation there. They go to Ohio State, they're having a great year. And they go there, they're 7.5, 8 point underdog, and they get blown out by 23 points. It was complete embarrassment. Many times when a team's bubble is busted like that, you got to watch out for them because they thought they were better than that, and now all of a sudden they know they're not. So now they come home and they're going to be what, a 9, 10 point favorite here? Do you think?
They'll be pretty good sized favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're looking at Minnesota, even though they're not 100%, they're also having a pretty good year. They're 16-4 on the year straight up, only 10-10 against the spread, but on the road they've covered 6 out of the 8 games. And when you look at their last 4 games, they've won all of those games, collectively getting a rating of 91. I give mathematical ratings to all my teams. In conference play, a 91 is pretty darn good. When you compare that to Purdue, taking out the very bad rating against Ohio State because of the loss, they're not any better than that. So now you're laying 10 points to a team that's pretty hot. They've covered 4 of their last 5 games. They've won 4 straight games in a row. And Purdue has now lost 3 of their last 5 games straight up. So I don't think we can forget that. They're not actually in the same hot streak as they were before when they won 12 or 13 out of 14 games. This team is on a little bit on a down kick. They're probably emotionally drained. Yes, they're going to want to come out and make a case, but when you look earlier in the year, I don't think they match up. I think Scott's right. Minnesota might have their number. And when Purdue's lost now 4 out of the last 5 against the spread overall against all the teams they're playing, I got to look at the dog here. Even though I want to look for getting 9 or 10. I don't want to take anything short of that. But if I can get 9 or 10, I'm on the dog.
Yeah, it's probably not a game I'll get involved in. I think the situation. Personally, I still think the situation favors Purdue, but you're gonna pay the price if you want the Boilermakers. See, that's the one difference between us analyzing a game and then actually betting it. I don't think there'll be any value in the Purdue side. And in college basketball, especially this time of year, you got to do more than just analyze a game. You have to look for value in the number. You're not getting value. Long run, you're going to have problems. Let's take a look at St. Mary's in Portland. Guys, St. Mary's, they struggled last week. That's a tough trip to Vanderbilt. But I'll tell you what, they really showed something on Thursday night, I should say. That was an impressive win at Gonzaga. I thought that was a must-win game for the Zags, who they got a lot of losses this year, and they were coming home off 2 bad road losses to Santa Clara and San Francisco, teams that Gonzaga doesn't usually lose to. I think Gonzaga is going to have trouble getting to the NCAA tournament unless they win the WCC now, and that's strange to say, but it looks like the mantle has, things have changed for the West Coast Conference. St. Mary's is now the best program, at least for now, in the conference. That's a really impressive win for that basketball team on Thursday. Scott, can they keep it going as they stay on the road and go to Portland? They'll be favored by a pretty good number in this game, too.
Yeah, I had I should say I didn't have St. Mary's against Gonzaga, but I had them a couple of times this year, including a big win that they had over Loyola Marymount. It was one of my Road Warrior wipeouts. We're on a 25-10 run with those games. Every Monday night I do this report where I have my favorites and frauds, and it's basically teams that belong in the top 25. What I do is I release a team that I think is overrated in the top 25, a team that I think is underrated in the top 25, and then a team that's outside of the rankings but I think belong in the rankings. And I use the AP, by the way. So this week, you mentioned, St. Mary's has been outstanding. I mean, going to that Vanderbilt game last week, very tough road trip. They had 2 losses. They lost to a then undefeated San Diego State team, which finally lost their first game earlier this week. And they lost by just a single point to BYU on a neutral court. So they go on this very tough road trip to a good Vanderbilt program. They lose, not unexpectedly, and they drop them from the rankings in the AP. And I'm just scratching my head. They were my team outside of the top 25 this week in that Monday night report. That I felt should have been easily in the top 25, probably in the range of 12 to 17, somewhere in that range. So I did expect them to win the game last night against Gonzaga. I had talked about that with the free play that I gave out. But this team, I think, is going to have a tough time completely refocusing for a pretty good Portland team. I mean, people forget this team's 15-6. They're up there in the Northwest, and they're really going unnoticed. They don't play all that great kind of basketball away from home, but at home they've been exceptional. I mean, Luke Sikma gives them a nice presence inside. He can also make your big man step outside. He's averaging 14 points per game. They put 3 guys between about 12.5 and 14 points per game. They've got the kid Stoll, a pretty good, decent guard who's going to make McConnell or Dellavedova, either one, have to come out and guard area code 3. In fact, they've got 2 guards that do that because their top 2 guards average roughly 12.5 3-point attempts per game, and they both hit between 43% and 48% from the arc. So this kind of changes the way a team has to defend, and they have to really go out and play the perimeter. So as good and as much as I like McConnell and Dellavedova, backcourt for St. Mary's, I really think they're going to be hard-pressed to be able to play and keep their energy at both ends of the court because of what they have to match up with on the defensive end. Now, the one caveat when you're backing the Portland Pilots is they really don't have any rebounding other than Luke Sikma, and he does a great job. He wipes the glass for about 11 boards per game, but after that, I mean, it's nil. His help around the glass is not good. You got to give St. Mary's a ton of credit. They lost Omar Samhan from last year's team. They lost the big kid Allen, another big kid inside who went about 6'10" from last year's team, but they've continued their success. They get their first win ever under this coach at Gonzaga, and he's been there since the mid-1990s with the Gales. So, just a fantastic win. I think it's going to be a tough spot to come back from emotionally and be able to go on the road against a good home-protecting team in the Portland Pilots, who, as I said, are underrated. 15-6. They're only 3-3 in the West Coast Conference, but I think they're going to give St. Mary's all they can handle. And I have to back the Portland Pilots in this one. I just don't think St. Mary's can drum up the same energy they had the last game against Gonzaga.
Basically, I have to agree with you, Scott. The couple caveats there is, first of all, let's look at that loss that St. Mary's had to Vanderbilt. That's a game that they have to travel across the country to go to play Vanderbilt on the road. The game really is meaningless to them. I mean, they're in the middle of their conference. They go down there as a 5-point underdog and get blown out by 19. Very unimpressive. Terrible game, 72 rating, I give them off that game. But when you consider the next game 5 days later was going to be at Gonzaga, you could actually say, well, maybe they were looking ahead to that, and maybe as handicappers, I don't know if we did or didn't, but that's one of the things that we should be looking at. Big game against Gonzaga on the road, playing a meaningless game on the road against Vanderbilt. Perfect spot for Vanderbilt. I missed it. I didn't play the game at all, but kind of ashamed of myself for not noticing that. But they bounced back with a big effort against Gonzaga. The huge game that was pointing to. Now emotionally, a couple days later, 2 days later, they have to go to Portland. And now that's 3 straight road games. And this is the third of those 3 games. Now, granted, this is a big game. It's a conference game, so they're not going to be not focused, but maybe emotionally drained. And you mentioned Portland, how well they're playing. Well, they are playing well, and I like them in this spot, except for one thing. They've covered 1 of their last 8 games. That's not real impressive. And when you're that far under the number against, and that's what it's all about here. We're trying to beat the point spread. So it's not about who wins the game or anything else. It's about beating the point spread, and 1 cover out of 8 games is not very impressive. I like the dog here. That's the only side I would play. If I get a good number and probably get 8, I probably take the 8, but I'm not going to be really thrilled and make it a real big play.
I'll tell you what, Randy Bennett, a lot of people don't know who he is. If you're watching back east, unless you're a college basketball junkie, you're probably not familiar with him. He's a great basketball coach. This was a bad program when he took him over, and he's turned him into a power. It's a little school. They play in a tiny little gym. They're not a team that was on TV a lot, and yet he's consistently churned out quality teams. And now, by recruiting internationally, basically, he's put together a backcourt that is as good as any in the country. I'm telling you what, this McConnell-Dellavedova combination, awesome. These guys can shoot from anywhere. They handle the rock very well. And I agree completely with you guys. Portland is absolutely the right side as far as the situation goes. This St. Mary's team scares the hell out of me. The Vanderbilt game, I'll forgive. That is one of the weirdest home courts in the country because of the way it's configured. The benches are under the baskets rather than on the side. It's just, if you've never played there before, it's a really strange building to play in. And it was a nothing game for them. I mean, really, St. Mary's is already in the NCAA tournament. You'll hear no conversation about them being on the bubble. They're already in. They have the Gonzaga game next. It was just a bad spot for them, and it really wasn't a great matchup for them either. And Vandy just cleaned their clocks. I have a good friend of mine who's a really sharp West Coast Conference guy. That's really the league he specializes in. He loved Vanderbilt in that game, and he's usually, when he's that strong in a game, you can pretty much take it to the bank. St. Mary's winning at Gonzaga, though. Wow. Like, Scott, you mentioned it, they don't do that. I mean, Gonzaga's got a great home court. The last time these teams had met was in the West Coast Conference Finals here in Las Vegas last year, and St. Mary's blew Gonzaga off the court. So you had to figure, boy, the Zags are really coming here in a game they desperately need. And St. Mary's won it anyway. I think that tells you how good this team is. So even though this is a really good spot for Portland, and it doesn't get much better than this in terms of scheduling dynamics, scares the hell out of me. I mean, I don't think you can do anything but play Portland here because, well, it's just that's where the cap is in this game. But I'm not comfortable going against St. Mary's right now, especially with this. If they're ahead late in the game and they go to the foul line, you're toast. They're going to make their free throws. This team will knock down 75% easy.
Except for Mitchell.
If it's two guards, they're close to 85%.
Right. I don't know if you guys saw the game the game on Thursday night. The thing that bothered me about Bennett, it was their first win there in 15 years at Gonzaga. But the thing about he left Mitchell in the game. I understand Mitchell's significance, importance to this team, but over that final minute, when it's a nip and tuck game, there's going to be free throws. To have him still on the court with a 48% free throw percentage for the season, I thought was bad coaching. And he went to the line and he missed the front end. I mean, he bricked it. It went off the glass first. He made the second one. They were very fortunate because if they would have got the ball back and would have only been up by 1 or 2 points, they foul him again and they go to the line again. But they were able to escape. So that's something that hopefully Bennett's going to learn from. If they're in the final minute of a March Madness game when that time comes, or a conference tournament game in March, the bottom line is they're going to have to get him out of the game in the final minute in a close contest. He's a horrible free throw shooter, and it almost cost him on Thursday night.
All right,
by the way, guys, I didn't mention this. I kind of look for a low-scoring game here. St. Mary's is a very good defensive ball club, mostly unders. When you look at their 5 of the last 6 games have gone under the total. I'm actually looking for this to be an underplay. The other thing is Portland is 11-0 this year at home. Let me see if the number is 36. Portland at home, 36-4 since 2008.
Pretty good
at home,
and their crowd will be really fired up for this game.
They will be.
They'll be fired up on Sunday too. St. John's at the Garden, and here comes Duke. This is going to be fun because Lavin's doing a nice job with the Johnnies. They've had a few bad spots. They've also had some good ones. They play fast. They're an exciting team to watch. But that fast, I don't know, that may play into the hands of Duke. Duke up tempo can be pretty dangerous. But again, here you've got a game where it's a national stage, really big opportunity for St. John's to make a statement. And they're a team that could really use an upset win over somebody to make the NCAA selection people stand up and take notice if come selection time. I don't know if they're going to make the tournament anyway. That's neither here nor there. I think they're going to be very fired up for this. But, boy, the Dukies, when they get on national TV, this type of a game, they're a little scary to go against. And they're not number 1 right now. Gives them additional motivation, Jim.
Yeah, well, there's no question. Huge game. This is one of those motivational games, though. I mean, St. John's, this is their Super Bowl. I mean, we all know where Duke's going to be at the end of the year. St. John's, this is it. National television, big game on a Sunday, big underdog situation for them. Lavin's doing a pretty good job. This is a perfect spot if you get the right number. What should that number be, Dave?
I think Duke's going to come, I'm thinking they've got to come about 8, maybe 9. Could be a shade off.
Well, that's 8-9 is. I sure would like to get a few more than that, but I mean, Duke's scary. They are scary. They can do a lot of damage and very quickly as well. I like the dog here, but I'm going to shop for the best number I can get.
My thoughts on it are I'm curious to see what the odds maker does. I'm hoping he'll tip his hand on this. In other words, if it's a short number, shorter than we think on power ratings, that might be an indicator that the odds maker wants Duke money and that they like St. John's. On the other hand, if they put this line up there in double figures, to me, then you got a situation where they're basically saying, we don't think St. John's can compete, Scott, and Duke is going to roll them even at the Garden. My thoughts are, I think St. John's is going to give him a game. Lavin is, you go back to Lavin's history at UCLA, pretty good in games where he wasn't given a chance. Lavin's struggles came more as a favorite when he was against a team that he should absolutely handle. And you can remember how many bad games UCLA would have. They'd lose to teams like Long Beach State and squads like that. They'd have a terrible time. But when in games where they had to step up and play well, the Bruins were pretty good. I think we're already seeing some of the same tendencies at St. John's. His team they kind of like the big stage, from what I can tell. That may be an indicator for this game to watch for. David,
actually, it could come down to the officials. I mean, St. John's is going to try to muscle up and play physical and try to, intimidate Duke to some degree, especially underneath. And if they call all those fouls and Duke hits their foul shots, it could be nasty. But if they don't blow the whistle that often, the underdog has a good chance here. 6-8 would not be a surprising finish to me. But look for as much cushion if you're going to play the dog as you can possibly find.
Well, guys, I mentioned that we talked about Duke in a game, I don't know, last week or 2 weeks ago on this show, and I mentioned that if Irving didn't get hurt for the Duke Blue Devils, they were going to win their second national championship. I was convinced. I mean, it was their world, and everybody else was just living in it. And now they're going to match up against St. John's. Of course, Irving's gone. And the thing about St. John's, you mentioned I really like the hire. I think Lavin's going to have great success in Queens. I think he's going to put out great numbers, and this team's going to be a perennial top 25 team again as long as he stays there as the coach. And they've got 8 guys who average like 16 minutes or more in double digits in minutes played, but I'm not sure that the quality depth is all that great right now. And I think it's going to take another season before Lavin has a good solid 7 to 8 guys who they can rely on in big step-up games like this. Now, they've lost, I think, 5 of the last 6 games as we see them kind of going through some growing pains now under Lavin after the great start. They looked horrible on offense the other night against Georgetown, losing by 25 points, scoring just 52. And I think that's the 5th time now in 7 games where this team has scored 61 points or less. After putting up a couple of games where they scored in the 80s, a win over West Virginia was nice on the blotter. They did beat Georgetown first time out before losing by 25 last time. But again, I think they're going through some rough patch. They're a little bit worn down, it seems like to me. And again, I just don't think they have the quality scoring other than their top 3 players to get them over the hump. They also don't have much work underneath the glass. Their leading rebounder goes 6'5", and DJ Kennedy, and Duke usually feasts off of these kind of teams. He's averaging about 5.5, 5.6 rebounds per game, and again, he's not a big guy. So it's going to be tough for St. John's to get any second chance opportunities if Duke is focused for this contest. I did like the way they played against Notre Dame. That was after a couple of losses, and Mike Bray came out after that game and he said, man, they just pressed us full court and we could never get into any kind of a rhythm. But even without Irving, you're not going to be able to press Duke and get away with it for an entire 40 minutes. There's going to be a spot along the way where Duke just goes on a bust-out type of run. Now, that doesn't mean St. John's can't cover towards the end of the game, but I think it's going to be doubly tough. Not only do they have to play great defense all game long, but they're going to have to go through a spurt by the Duke Blue Devils at some point in the second half where they're going to have to survive. And right now, the energy level for St. John's just doesn't look like it did 3 weeks ago, and I think it's going to be tough for them to get it back. They're going to come out sky high for this game, but I got to back the Blue Devils or nothing here in this one. I got to go with Duke, guys. I just think they're going to go on one of those Duke patented runs in the second half, and the Johnnies just won't have enough to answer.
Well, let's talk about our best bets, and once again, update everybody with some great offers this weekend. I think I'll start off. I'm going to take Portland among the games we talked about. Portland plus the points. It's scary going against St. Mary's. Randy Bennett is a great coach. They've got, without question, a top 5 backcourt. If Portland falls behind with only a few minutes to go in this game, I'd be worried about holding on for the number. But it's such a good scheduling spot. I think Portland, I think for the Pilots plus the points are the way to play. in that game. I have 3 under-the-hat plays on Saturday. I'm going to put them together and guarantee a 3-0 sweep for $10. 3 winners, guaranteed $10, or you get free service through the Super Bowl on February 6th. It's a dynamite offer. Make sure to take advantage by calling 1-866-841-1665. This is a TV exclusive. This is not going to be advertised online. It's only for those of you that are watching this show right now. 1-866-841-1665. Guaranteed 3-0 under the hat sweep for just $10. Jim, how about you? $1 a day for $9. You can't beat that for 9 days.
Absolutely. If you're out there, this is a great time of year. We've been talking about it since the beginning of college basketball. It's exciting. It's every day of the week. There's, some days there's 30, 40 games you can bet on, sides, totals. It's exciting. And when you talk about $1 a day for give me a break, $1 a day for 9 days, that's amazing. $9? It's a Super Bowl special, 9 days of hoops and the Super Bowl, $9. Make the call, 1-866-841-1655. Like the analysis we're doing here today, we do on each and every game. Some games more in depth than others because we know more about the teams. And we do this every day, and it's exciting. It's money making. It's going to make you money. $1 a day, $1 a day, $9. 1-866-841-1655. Make sure you go to ProlineTV.com to watch videos like this all the time, each and every day during the week. And we have plays there as well. And if you want free text plays each day, text WINNER, WINNER, to 313131.
Hey, Jim, of the three games we talked about, you got one that you like the best?
I do, and I'm going to go with the same side you have. It's a scheduling dynamic that I can't pass up. I'm not too happy about the way Portland's not been covering, but I know they're going to be sky high for this game. This is an emotional game for them to knock off this team that just knocked off Gonzaga. There's no question about that. And St. Mary's has got to suffer a little bit of a letdown. This team's 11-0 straight up at home this year, 36-4 since 2008. This is a tough out for St. Mary's. I like Portland to win this game.
Scott, you cleaned up again with that 2-teamer last week, and these 3-team reports, you got 3-play reports, have been on an awesome roll. So ties in with a great offer that you got this weekend.
Thanks, Dave. First of all, we haven't had a lot of consensus plays over the last few weeks, but I got one. I'm going to join you. I'm going to go with Portland, and we'll see if we can get a consensus play to come in for us tonight or on Saturday. You were right. Those 3-team packages, those 3-team trifectas, if you will, have been outstanding. We had one time and won 10 straight 3-play packages. We went 1-2 on Wednesday. Still, though, 23-10 with the 33 plays inside those packages. All sides. You're not going to get a college basketball total from me that could jump 6 or 7 points by the time you make the call to the office. You're going to get 3 big sides that I'm really big on this weekend on Saturday. All 3 sides will be included in my 3-team parlay of the year as we look to make it 11-1 now with these 3-play packages. It's only $15 for all 3 plays. All you have to do is call 1-866-896-1627. We had a big 2-team college to pro basketball parlay of the year last week. Now a 3-team college basketball parlay of the year. And by the way, when you make the call, that means you're going to get the Super Bowl side. That's going to be there at no additional cost, plus my Super Bowl propositions. All available, 1-866-896-1627. Dave?
We're going to be doing this every day. Not the weekend show that we're doing right now is longer. We get more in depth, but you want to make sure and check in Monday through Friday for ProLineTV.com, our daily edition. Usually a couple of us on, a couple of games we look at, some great offers. And, of course, next week, a little bit extra, because it's the road to can't say the road to Dallas. I guess that's copyrighted. We'll call it the road to North Texas. We will get into
the road to the Bay.
So make sure and check in with us every day here on Proline. For the guys, I'm Dave. Have a great weekend.